Yeah, circle line. That's it. Yep. There we go.
This is a call to order of the regular Board of Aldermen meeting located at 301 North Stagecoach Road in Salado, Texas. The time is 6:30. Ms. Bean, please call the roll. Thank you, ma'am. Next is the invocation. As we begin this Board of Aldermen meeting, let us take a moment to reflect on our shared commitment to serve the diverse community of the Village of Salado. We invite all present, regardless of faith, belief, or philosophy, to join us in spirit of unity, respect, and compassion. May our deliberations be guided by wisdom, our decisions rooted in fairness, and our actions driven by the common good. Whether you find inspiration in a higher power, the bonds of humanity, or the wonders of nature, let us work together to build a culture where every voice is heard and every individual is valued. Please just take a moment. Thank you. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will protect the flag. I will never be to be protected. One state, under God, one. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. Next is public comments. The Board of Aldermen welcomes comments from citizens on issues and items of concern not on the agenda. Those wishing to speak must sign in before the meeting begins and observe a 5-minute time limit when addressing the board. Speakers will have one opportunity to speak during this time period. Speakers desiring to speak on an agenda item will be allowed to speak when the agenda item is called. Inquiries about matters not listed on the agenda will either be directed to staff or placed on a future agenda for Alderman consideration. Mr. Jim Boynton.
Jim Boynton, 3565 FM 2843 Salado. Y'all heard me speak about this before. We have two disasters going on in this city. One's outside of town at Mustang Springs. The other's being leased out as we speak. The neighborhood over there has been understood all along that they were not going to lease out or rent any apartments or any of those buildings until the process was complete. That may or may not be accurate. I know I've talked to Danny about it. He's very knowledgeable. There may be some things in the agreement that we're not privy to, but unfortunately, the neighbors all felt like that there was going to be some addressing of the streets, of the water runoff, the trash and the tires, and the retaining walls. None of those things that were promised us. The mayor and myself and a couple others were in a meeting with them back in January. And they went on to go ahead and verbally agree that they were still going to do it. There's no guardrail going down Santa Maria. The road is tore up. It may be that they can get away with tearing up the road and not replacing it because it may not be in our contract. I want to just reinforce from a lot of people's perspective in this town, our biggest problem is not the lights on Main Street or not making light of any project, but there's projects coming that we need to do because we haven't done any road repair for years. But more important than road repair projects, with the quality of building, the narrow streets, and all the disasters going on there, that could very easily turn into Section 8 housing if we're not careful. That's not what we want. We were promised European-style apartments, and we've not seen that at all. I don't think, personally, when I've discussed stuff with them and they've promised, different things, that it was in good faith, because it's easy for them to promise something while they're continuing to build on and march towards their goal. But none of those things have been addressed at all. I mean, even like this, the tire issue, where they buried some of those tires in the ground, they could have very easily been notified by the city. Clean up the tires and then put a start working. Those companies that in Central Texas have come down 5 or 8 or 10 months of time, that wouldn't break them if they at least be out of the way, not contaminating the creeks and all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boynton. Mr. De La Rosa, I'd like to add to in the very near future, as soon as possible, to get folks from Water's Edge in here and let's have a conversation about that. I'll walk out with it. I have seen some ads about what they're currently leasing. Can you speak to that, about them leasing currently?
I have heard that they are already in the process of leasing apartments. So I've been in contact with some of the representatives just about signage they're proposing and not approving. So I will be I think I've got a meeting coming up next week with them. So with the construction manager, somebody, an architect that manages that project. I'll see who I don't believe the management company's in charge, so I'll find exactly who's in charge of that site.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? Moving along to item 2, consent agenda. 2A, 2B. 2A is approval of minutes of June 6, 2024, the regular Board of Aldermen meeting. And B is approval of the finance reports as of May 31, 2024. Mr. De La Rosa, you have anything you want to add to that with the financial reports?
Nothing.
Entertain a motion.
Consent agenda as written.
Second.
Motion presented by Alderman Graham, seconded by Alderman McDonald. All in favor of approval of the consent agenda as written, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? It passes, Ms. Dean, 3-0. Number 3, discuss and consider possible action regarding any item removed from the consent agenda. Does not apply. Number 4, status reports. Village Administrator's report. Mr. De La Rosa.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Alderman. Sales tax collections for the month of May was $67,012. And if you compare that to May of 2023, that's $61,000, so roughly almost $6,000 more. And then May of 2022, $60,000. So it has leveled off since the opening of QC, and it seems to be more online. So I'm sure when it opened, there was the anxiety of a new place, but it's leveling off. Do you have any questions on the sales tax or any other matters?
No.
No.
All you got?
That's all I got.
I guess, I mean, I do have a question, but it's not on what you reported, but it is a question for you. I know we had discussed earlier in the week, and it was a good education on my behalf, but could you speak to the ability of a general law municipality to impose things like term limits?
Yes, sir. I can. There have been 3 of the current 5 mayor and aldermen that have requested to know about term limits. General law type A cities, whether it's type A, type B, or type C, do not have the ability to set term limits. You do have the ability by ordinance to have a 2-year term, 3-year term, or 4-year term. The problem with anything greater than 3 or greater is, for example, if Mayor Henry was an alderman with a 3-year term, he would have had to step down from that position before he could run for mayor. So that's a drawback. That's actually in the Texas Constitution. So if you want to have term limits when you become a home rule city, you can pass, the voters will approve a city charter, and you can have term limits, and you can have a lot of other requirements in there that the statutes allow you to. since you operate under the general laws of the state, the same that's applicable to you, same is applicable to every other state elected official, you know, from the governor all the way down. In other words, there is no term limit to the governor, the lieutenant governor, the attorney general's office, because you follow the same state statutes.
And for us to be a home rule, we would have a population of 5,001 or greater.
That is correct, 5,000 or greater.
And our current population is about 23 and some change.
You know, you probably have an undocumented, just, you know, any city. So a lot of times what you can do is you can prove it through the number of water counts, like river counts, those kind of things. You do. There are some formulas, and there are cities that utilize those formulas. But if not, I mean, if you're just basing it on a straight census, then you're basing it either, like they come out every 10 years, but there are some estimates along the year, like whatever 2024 has, and you read that. So it may not always be that accurate, and if you get these apartment units or you get some of these other multi-tenants, you'll, you know, sometimes the percentages are actually greater. So when the environmental agency, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, when they start counting water connections, sewer connections, they come up with a much better number, and that's how they base certain requirements for water reservoir and those kind of things. So therefore, those are recognized formulas and standards.
Anybody else? Item 5, discussion and possible action on A, discuss and consider possible action on approving West Amity Subdivision Phase 2 final plat. Mr. De La Rosa approached me before the meeting and asked that that be tabled until a future meeting.
Yes, and Mayor and Alderman, the reason being is we have started a working relationship with the county engineer's office and also including our county commissioner. So before this development, and you've got the drawing in front of you, the roadways that connect, if there's any roadways that are going to be built in the county is going to be responsible for them, we want to make sure that they are okay, they've been built to those standards or not. So as a proven authority, rather than table it or rather than even approve it conditionally, I ask that you table it. That gives me time to the next meeting. I will place a call tomorrow to developers to give it to county engineers, give us that they're okay with it, and if not, they will not get back into this agenda until they've addressed it.
Do we need a motion for that?
One to table, yes, sir. Motion to table. Table, please.
Mayor, I motion to table.
Mayor made motion by Alderman McDonald to table. Second by Alderman Hurst. All in favor of tabling item 5A until another date, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Passes with being. Next item B, discuss and consider possible action for approving a financial advisory contract with Samco Capital Markets Incorporated. Mr. De La Rosa.
Mayor, I'm going to allow Ms. Christine, your financial advisor, to step forward and speak on behalf of the contract.
We've been reviewing our contract, and this is a contract that's been open-ended, trying to be able to negotiate it. In the process, it also does not include kids explicitly in the contract, so we wanted to add that in. My clients, guys, we're starting to see more bond issues, and we wanted to have a structured payment schedule, so the more you issue, the lower the fee. So we have structured pay schedule, like we do with all of our other clients. I have a handful of clients that had an open-ended, we can negotiate each time. We're going away from that for regulator compliance issues and things like that. So this contract is lower than several of my other contracts, and I'm in the one contract that is a lower fee than yours. Yours is right there in the middle where most all my contracts are. And that contract is a contract with clients. So we're updating, trying to update everything.
I'm going to open it up to questions. Alderman Graham, you have any questions?
May, I know you reviewed and taken a look at this, any issues or concerns with respect to what we're talking about here?
No, sir, no, this is pretty standard. I've done some, work recently, with my previous employer on the issuance of municipal bonds, and our financial advisors out of San Antonio and firm, fairly straightforward. There was nothing in it that surprised me, and we did talk about the fee.
Alderman Hurst.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
All right, now I'm going to open it up to public comments. If anyone wants to get up and speak on this agenda item, you have 5 minutes to do so. None? Okay. Any more questions from anybody else? I will entertain a motion at this time, please.
Make a motion to approve the financial advisory contract with Central Capital Markets.
Motion to approve by Alderman Graham. Second by Alderman Hurst.
Question?
Question called by Alderman McDonald. Y'all don't have any further discussion on this? Okay. All in favor of the approval of the financial advisory contract with Samco Capital Markets Incorporated, say yes.
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 Any opposed? Passes, Ms. Dean. Thank you. Discuss and consider possible action on approving ordinance number 2024-06, an ordinance of the Village of Salado, Texas, providing for regulations to and concerning camping and providing findings of fact, effective date, repealer, severability clause, and proper notice and meetings. Mr. De La Rosa.
Mayor and Alderman, this is the second reading of the camping ordinance. At the last meeting, you indicated that you wanted to allow the city administrator to be able to decide certain camping, so that was placed in 2 places in this ordinance. You would like to know where you'll see section 2 adoption, you'll see under authorization, I'm listed there. Then on the 3rd page, right below tent stores, shelter, which is prohibition, then you'll see section 2, subsection 2, property owned by the Village of Salado, including village parks without possession authorization of the village administrator. So that should, and certainly as you know that anytime we get a request from like Boy Scouts or some, it's not Boy Scouts, Scouts of America or any other organization like that, I will certainly inform you that I've done that and notify the police. But at the same time, if it's a benefit to the community or to our youth, I will certainly look forward to approving those.
Thank you. We open up for questions. Alderman Graham, Alderman Hurst, Alderman McDonald.
Well, thank you for addressing the civic value of that. Thank you.
I'll now open it up to public comments. None? Okay. I will entertain a motion at this time. Motion made to approve by Alderman Hurst.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Graham.
Question?
Question has been called by Alderman McDonald. All in favor of the ordinance as approval of the ordinance as written, say yes.
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 Any opposed? It passes this being 3-0. Item D, discuss and consider possible action on approving ordinance number 2024-08, an ordinance of the Village of Salado, Texas, amending ordinance to 2017.07, establishing regulations relating to the sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages within the village limits, repealing ordinance number 2017.07, and providing findings of fact, effective date, repealer, severability clause, and proper notice and meeting. Mr. De La Rosa, can you give us a rundown of this?
Okay, this addresses and amends an ordinance passed in 2017, actually 2017-07. At that time, the ordinance did allow for the issuance of city permits. It just didn't tell us how we were going to do it or what the fee structure was. There's been past practices of public hearings and so forth, and there are some, in some cases, if you want to have a waiver from schools, daycares, churches. So this ordinance does not require any public hearings unless you request a waiver of distance from those establishments. But it does set the guidelines for how we would implement the city permitting process as a percentage allowed by state law. And for those that are already existing, until it comes up for renewal, it's when we would address the city permit. But this ordinance does allow for us to be able to request that information from the operators of these establishments. Which if they not, then they would be in violation of the ordinance. So, but anybody after the passage will have to comply with the not only CABC permitting but also the city permitting process.
So this one, if this passes, the part with the fees and that sort of thing, they already have a TABC license, they have a permit by the village. It doesn't affect them. We're just talking about from this date forward.
That is correct. For example, the state of Texas, if I recall, the issuance of 2-year permits. The previous one we said about 1 year. Most cities have them at 1 year. They should run concurrent with the TABC license. So sometimes some folks get the TABC and they may be 3-4 months, half a year, down the road before they set the city. Doesn't matter. It runs concurrent. All those fees and now will expire and TABC expires at the same time. So. I did explain at the last meeting, the first reading, was that should an establishment continue to serve patrons that are not behaving properly, and that continues at that establishment, city police officer can remove the city's permit, and that stops the sales of alcohol. It is one way that you have some say in those establishments that are non-compliant. For it the first time, police know what they're supposed to do. They're very knowledgeable with this kind of thing. So, other cities in your area have the same type of thing. We had it, we just didn't have a way to implement it.
This covers all those things.
Pardon me?
This covers all those things.
Oh, this covers all of everything within the city limits.
How are we going to notify the
We're good. That'll be a task that I actually, staff will figure out all the places that we have establishments. Our PD will verify those. We'll put a notice together notifying of the new ordinance. And that'll get our police officers in front of those establishments that, we take this very seriously.
Alderman, anything?
I don't.
No, thank you. Thank you for explaining that.
All right, I'm going to open this up to public comments. 5 minutes. All right, any further questions for Mr. Del Rosa or anything? I will look to a motion.
Make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2024-08 as written.
Motion was made by Alderman Graham,
Second.
seconded by Alderman McDonald. Any further discussion? Questions will call to Alderman Hurst. All in favor of approving ordinance 2024-08, say yes.
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 Any opposed? Passes, Ms. Bean, 3-0. Item E is discussion on public safety issues regarding parking and ADA accommodations and related issues on both Royal Street and Main Street, inclusive of the intersection, and this is Alderman McDonald's item.
Mayor, Alderman, Mr. De La Rosa, most of you received an email that I expressed. There should be some photos that I'd like to bring up. So in general terminology, I had the honor and pleasure to ride with Chief last Friday amongst foraging for puppies and watching batteries explode in public vehicles, service vehicles, things of that nature, and some other things that we took care of that day. One of the conversations that we had was the fact of the congestion of Royal Street, Main Street, particularly at that intersection, and a little further up at the beginning of Center Circle by functionally the business of the shed area and everywhere in between. What caused the initial conversation and my concern in the first place was about 4 weeks ago, I addressed it with Mr. De La Rosa about a young pedestrian walking with their young child in the middle of the lane of the road right across the street from the 300 block of Royal Street, which is the guardrail that's right there. which motivated me to go out there to do nothing more than just basically take down the weeds. And the reason I took them down is because up until the point where she and her daughter were walking down the center of the road, the delivery truck coming opposed to her, in other words, leaving the area, had to kind of slow down pretty quick because he didn't see her. All right. Now we know we have some walking problems, some sidewalk issues over there, and we know we have some ongoing remediation that we know we're going to do with the Royal Street project. However, my concern was we have a potential disaster issue based on the population growth here and the nightlife that we have here, and the day life, the water, and all the things. So now that I've said all that stuff, I spoke to Chief about this. I posed him some simple questions in which he answered, and those questions were simple. One, what do we do if somebody's parked in the middle of the road? Blunt language moment. I'm not talking your bumper sticking out a foot because the length of your vehicle is just a little more than the parking lot allows, but we're talking literally parking in the middle of the road. Can you go ahead and go to, there you go. Stuff like this. And I know that for a fact that we all drive 25 miles an hour down Royal Street to go to Main Street. However, in those off chances that you're not, that's a pinch point in a congested area. And I will tell you that I have seen almost near misses into the effect of there's also been from time to time some, I would say probably some nick and dimes on some vehicles, some other vehicles because of that and things of that nature. And in addition to that, the road's getting chewed up. Royal Street particularly, the way you see these vehicles parked, it's chewing up the road more and more. All right? If you go back a few shots, I like to talk about people parking on the sidewalk. It'll be backwards. So there you go. That's a good one. Now this right here is functionally on Main Street. It's in front of the Benton Chupacabra area. And when the parking spots were designed, without a doubt, they're just too short. And we all know that. My concern is that we should be required, and I know we're required, to make sure those sidewalks stay open for people who have ADA issues or who are in need of that. And at this point, for example, that's one of those positions where if somebody was in a wheelchair, they could not get through that area. And to be very fair, the stoned sidewalk that's elevated is not public conveyance. That's private property. And we could not hold that private property accountable for that. That is not their responsibility. The sidewalks are our responsibility. So all I'm asking is the community to pay attention. I would ask that if we could possibly maybe just be a courtesy of just remind everybody the etiquette of parking on the sidewalk, parking on the side of the roads, blocking the transfer station if we need to get to it, because that could become a problem if need be, if we had to deal with that. And I just want to bring it to the board's attention and the community's attention equally on the safety factors that we may be dealing with. Pending your questions, ma'am.
I'll reserve my questions so that Alderman Graham, do you have any questions?
I know at one point we had a fair amount of discussion regarding a four-way stop sign on Main and Royal, but the reason we weren't able to do that is because Main Street is a dot highway. And they were going to do some level of a traffic study or whatever the case may be. Did anything ever come of that you're aware of?
No, sir, no. That's certainly before my time, but you're right. I've worked in a lot of communities where TxDOT has roadways, Main Street, Loop, and Interstate. So it is very difficult to get it without a traffic study. And even the traffic study, if it doesn't meet their criteria, you will not get it. Unfortunately for TxDOT, a lot of that criteria means the number of accidents and fatalities. So,
which would certainly be reactive.
Yeah, they're not known for being proactive.
Our Royal Street project, what is our estimated start date on that?
The most recent conversation that I had with Solomon Thomas was there were somewhere between 60 and 80% on completion of their drawings. Now, I know the mayor sent an email. I was copying an email about the ribbon curb So I do have some drawings, at the 30% mark already. So, and it is, and we discussed some of those parking issues and protecting the roadway edges. And that will certainly help. So conversations, again, somewhere along the way, the Board of Aldermen provided the MRB group some direction, some boundaries, and some costs. So it looks like, from what I can tell, they've addressed a lot of it. I mean, I haven't seen the full set of plans yet, but it is within a fixed cost. So
Yeah, and that Royal Street project is in cooperation with TxDOT. And we get to select the
you get
contractor and whatnot.
you get to select the contractors. They've already, you've already selected MRB, unlike Mill Creek and Williams. Those are some of those things entirely different. Because the qualifications process. So they're working through that. It goes all the way up Royal Street, from Maine up to the 90-degree turn where it goes to mid-branch. So it's been. I even saw how they were going to try and address that Baines area, which is, I mean, it's impressive enough.
Yeah.
But again, as the mayor and I have indicated, sometimes the engineer's estimates are way off from the actual construction costs. So, and if you don't build in your increases every year, it's just like the KTMPO does in those kind of projects.
Yeah.
I didn't see those kind of numbers in your advanced funding agreement that I've already shared with y'all when it came through. So I'm always concerned as to how far we're going to be able to take it based on actual construction costs.
Yeah, because we've got, I mean, there's the tempo funds, but then there's also, it's not matching funds for us, is it, or is it?
There is a matching.
Yeah,
So,
it's
and
a one-for-one
Yeah.
ratio.
it's pretty close to 120.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. But here's the thing: anything above what TxDOT's already committed, if you want it, you're going to have to finance it. So I can't go for the SIB loan, which is the TxDOT bank, basically, until I know exactly that we've got approval on our project and we've got it 100% complete. Then the loan process is very quick after that.
And when we made that initial request for MRB to take a look at it and start, building up the plan and whatnot, and maybe I'm getting Center Circle mixed up with the Royal Street piece, but we did not include ribbon curving on that project, did we?
Not on Center Street, no.
Originally it was. Originally it was forecasted for ribbon curving, and because they estimated it at a lower cost than what it actually was, in order to do some cost saving measures and bring that back down, they eliminated the ribbon curving.
Yeah, because I remember we wanted to do ribbon cutting or ribbon curving, but it was cost prohibitive for Center Circle, and I'm wondering if that's something that's involved with this particular project as well or not.
Yeah, for any construction project, some of you've done contract work, you had 20% contingency.
Yeah.
Right? In the old days, it used to be 15, some years as much as 25, but 20 is the minimum, right? So we're not seeing those in the calculation sheet that's always concerned. You can have a ribbon curve that can be 12 inches wide, or you can have it as small as 6 inches. But you need something to protect the roadway edge, because as people pull off in Royal Street, it's going to chew up the edge of the roadway, it's going to compromise the integrity of that roadway. So 6 inches is better, than not having anything. But it looks like this is somewhere up to between 6 and 12, and I didn't, and like I said, I've got the drawings I can share with you. I don't have the full construction plans, but I've got the conceptuals and enough of the specifications on it.
And with respect to the parking, can you go to the one that's in front of the Starbucks? The car. So, do we have the ability? Again, I know this is a TxDOT road kind of thing. And I don't know technical about it. Those little bumpers that go in front of parking spaces so the vehicle can go any further. Is that something we'd want to look at here to keep a vehicle from doing this kind of thing, or?
You can, yes, sir.
Yeah, would that come out of pocket on us, or?
Yes, sir. It is yours. Yeah. So now, places of businesses, can, the chief factor, blocking any public sidewalk is a violation of state law. Then require an ordinance, right? So you can always give a friendly ticket. You can also put a friendly notice. Don't do that. Right. Mm-hmm. Who's that? Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Hargrove and Mr. Hargrove's mother.
Yeah. And you know, there are cities that have volunteers that go around checking handicap parking and put notices. But you know, you're not putting them in an adversarial position because today's public doesn't like anyone near the cars touching them or anything else, right? So I certainly don't encourage volunteers, you know, to complaining people about parking. But if it becomes serious, but you know, depending on what it is, we can always do a survey, find out how many parking spots we're talking about. You can put, you know, some rubber, you know.
Chief, do we know the frequency of this kind of thing taking place?
Dispatch to the location, they don't find violations such as this. However, there are, I'm not saying it's not happening, I'm just saying when officers get there, that can move right.
Right. Yeah, the reason I asked that question is I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, what would be your recommendation in terms of installations that rectify something like this?
Well, you can do education. Education is one of the best ways to do that. And when I say that, I mean education through Facebook posts, social media, officers going down, walk through the area, spending more time on foot in the area. I spend a lot of time on foot in the area when I'm on leave. But officers spending a lot of time on foot, so that they can have those intimate conversations. Hey, give me a second, back to car. Hey, you're on sidewalk. I probably didn't know you were on sidewalk, but you're on sidewalk. So it could be something as simple as that. Does everybody need a citation for something like that? No. But can it cause a disruption if you're in a wheelchair? Absolutely.
Alderman Hurst. I like the idea of the bumpers or whatever they're called there in those parking spaces specifically here. But if you look at this picture with that blue bar, if you were to put a fucking curve there or whatever, you're going to lose, because those things are kind of wonky with the way that, at the angle that they're in, you're going to lose 3 feet of parking, which means they're going to stick out an additional 2 or 3 feet into the road. Especially just looks like that's probably a hatchback or something. It's a little longer than what that little mini coupe is next to it. So I don't know that that's a viable option. Maybe this is what we want to do it there. They could put signs up on those stanchions right there. You know, no parking on the sidewalk or whatever.
Yeah, the city can't post them because those posts on that
Private property.
or private property. And you're right, if you put those parking stalls in a country block or even rubberized, they got to be 3 feet wide just because of the extension from the front of the wheel to the front tip of the car. So you know, you're trying to line them up.
So what's the desired?
Quick question. Mr. De La Rosa, based on those parking spots there, on the depth of parking, if we were to put in a bump stop or a roll stop there, people encroaching on the sidewalks, do we have the ability as a village, because of the parking, to limit the size of the vehicle, like for example, compact car? Do we have that ability?
Good.
Okay, that was kind of where I'm at. Well, I was hoping that we'd be able to have that option.
Yeah, what you would do is you would actually, pass an ordinance, get authorization from TechStop because you're going to mark up those parking spaces, and you would spray paint on, put signage on the green areas, compact cars only, and then you mark the areas like you do in some parking lots, which is compact cars only.
Yes, sir. Thank you for answering that.
A lot of people drive big trucks here, bigger vehicles, Suburban, Tahoe, stuff like that. I mean, those look like really small things.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna bump it.
That previous picture.
Yeah, and the post is probably in front of the parking space, but I said over off to the sides. I mean, on either side in the green space, but that's why you spray paint the parking stalls, because so you don't have that. But handicap parking, that is a requirement. Proposed design, not only the design, but also the dollar amount. So not everybody complies with the entire requirements of the posting.
I'm going to open it to public comments. Jim, you got?
Tim Flasher, 912 Cedar Park Circle, and I covered the design and construction of the Main Street project, and these parking spaces right here were intended to be compact. They were not intended to be for trucks. The other thing that is a concern to me is that with this being a state highway, and there being immediately off of parking area, there's no separation between the sidewalk and the flow of traffic road. Even though that's a parking area, there's no differentiation in height between where vehicles should be and where foot traffic should be. I think it would be very wise for the city to enact a compact park for that portion of it, or to consider slant parking, because you do, when you have slant parking, you pick up extra feet, you may lose a parking spot, which is why they didn't do that there. The other side of the road is not as bad because they had more area that wasn't affected by it. I can tell you that just north of the Royal Street on Main Street, that was not intended for any kind of nose-in parking. That was only supposed to be parallel parking, and I think they only had 2 parking spaces there. The sign that says golf cart parking, that was put up by an owner. There should not be any kind of pull-in parking at all on there, because that was designed to be parallel parking, regardless of the size of the vehicle. And those documents are public record. Those design documents are public record. On the areas where businesses put gravel across from Royal Street at the intersection of Royal and Center Circle, I think there needs to be signs put up saying do not park on the roadway. And if someone does put their left wheels on the actual pavement, they should be held liable with a ticket or liable to be towed. Because you can't park in the roadway anywhere. You know, if you can't get off all the way off the road, you're not supposed to park. And those gravel areas were done by the owners so that they could get some parkage off of the road. But people are lazy, and they drive very big cars, and they don't get their wheels off the road.
That's a good point. Thank you, Jim.
Linda Reynolds, so 1110 Mill Creek Drive. As Tim was mentioning about where the candy store and the a bar is now, they put signs out for golf carts there. And I remember it was just supposed to be 2 parking spaces, because not only is the golf carts parked there, they go up on the sidewalk where a handicapped wheelchair could be going. But I'm not sure if we know if a handicapped wheelchair can even get across the bridge, whether it's, I'm not sure our governor could get across our bridge on that lane. I haven't tried it myself. I was going to try to take my mother across, but she wouldn't let me. But now sometimes they're not golf carts there. There's a whole big barbecue. FSR is putting a barbecue cart across there. So it's totally blacked out for anybody. You gotta, if you're in a wheelchair or you're handicapped, you gotta go in the street there. And I'm not sure what brought that on all of a sudden, but we need to, it's a horrendous corner. When I first moved here, there was a little side street that let you turn to the right off the main street, and you could see. And then there was one up at Royal Street and what's the first street there? I can't remember the name. I used to, what is it? No, I was thinking of across from Center Circle, there's a street that goes up
Baines,
toward the highway.
Baines.
Anyway, there was a little turnoff like that there too, and it's still there. And I always thought they were kind of weird, but that turnoff that TxDOT took away from us to get off Royal Street onto Main Street was very effective. The other point is when people come down the hill into town, they are usually flying. But I've noticed many people stop at that corner because it totally confuses them, even though there's not a stop sign there. I have to stop coming toward them going south on Main Street, but coming in from the highway, people are often very confused about it. And they will stop even though they don't have a stop sign, and then I don't know whether to turn. It's a nightmare all around in general, and TxDOT, I feel fairly certain, made it worse. And I tried to talk to them about it when they opened up and let you look at things, and nobody wanted to hear that their plan wasn't perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? There's no action on this, so anybody else have any?
I mean, the only thing I would say is I think maybe we do need to look at something. Manny, I'd kind of like to see us explore the idea of putting compact car signs in those particular spots. And really the ones in front of Harry's and the general store. I mean, if that's supposed to be parallel parking, then why isn't it? And that kind of brings me back around to enforcement. And I would say, certainly I'm not in your shoes, but Chief, I'd say if he has vehicles that are on the, side of the road that are parking over at the shed incorrectly, then they need to be ticketed. And all these other type of items that are, violations. So I would just ask that we look at, increased enforcement in terms of parking and maybe just some compact signage we're looking for.
Very good. I'll look at I'll contact the Waco district office. I was just there last week. I mean, I've really developed a good relationship with TxDOT here recently with the 3 projects we have. And I'll request a copy of the construction plan, and that'll give me something something that's been approved by them, and then we'll start from there.
And those are just recommendations as to on top of it.
Along with that, authorized property and doing first.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, on that area,
On
yes,
that
sir.
strip right there,
Mm-hmm.
I think we still got enough room.
Yeah, that won't be a problem. Yes, sir. Consider it, yeah. Yeah, and I'll present it to you, then you'll decide how we proceed from there. But let me get that information in this number for you.
Good enough. On to the next item, F, budget goals and priorities workshop. Mr. Del Rosa.
Okay, I'm glad you guys didn't ask anything about the financials, because as you could tell in some of those line items, we're 9 months for our budget, so we should be hitting the 75%. Some of them are already like at 95 and all the services. So the staff is being trained to collect the right fee structure on the right development. So some of those things were just adhering to our fee schedule. So we've taken corrective actions there. We've talked about our wastewater accounts. We're reconciling those. We still have not been able to audit, right? We have to go out in the field, audit everybody's connected, and we believe that we have certain businesses already connected to our wastewater system that are not paying wastewater, and we will be following up on some of those. And I know that because I'm in communication with the County Public Health, and they tell me that that they get requests that they want to decommission their septic system, and they're operating. What does that kind of tell you, right? So we will work through some of those. The budget goals and priorities is just that wanted to start those conversations. We're going to have more of these, I like to kind of hold them during meetings. The mayor did discuss that based on what the budget looks like, and not to mislead anybody, as I look at your numbers, for example, the conversations with some of you have been, do we not build a municipal complex on somebody else's land, mainly the county annex, right? If you're not gonna do that, you've gotta purchase land. And if we're gonna do that, where are we gonna purchase it? So I'm looking at land, I'm having conversations with some, I'll give you an idea of what's available, but you don't have any place to build a facility. You don't have a public works yard. We have trailers that we keep on the side of the road, at least it's on the side of the road, not in the road. But we don't have a yard to drop off supplies, gravel, caoutchouc, anything, right? So all of those things are important. So you just hired your 9th police officer at the last meeting. There was some conversations that we should be looking at the 10th police officer in the next budget. All of those things are important because I need to try to put those numbers together. You need to replace your server in the near future because it's getting outdated and it won't meet with the new technology. So our IT's already given us some of those costs. So we've got a long ways to go. I am not an advocate for big government, and I'm not an advocate for raising the taxes. But I do believe that you need a certain amount in your bucket to be able to get certain things done. Right? If your level of service is going to be at some level that you determine, and if you're below that, you got to get up to it. And there's some costs associated. So I think that one thing that will help all of us, you as the elected officials and me as your management, is that we will likely should have a town meeting at the recommendation of the mayor. That we just kind of, as I put these numbers together, this is late June, sometime in August, because you'll adopt it in September, late in September, and we won't know what the appraisals look like till about mid-July. And I've already met your Billy's wife, who does some super appraisals, and his team. So, depending on what those look like, will depend on what kind of a budget I present you, and then we'll start removing things that we don't need or things that we can delay. But some of it will be capital purchases, some will be capital improvements, and some of it will be just stacking features. So we need to kind of lay out the entire plan, kind of a matrix, that we know what we're looking at, what our targets are. So today is nothing more than me trying to explain that I've had many conversations with Christy Siegel, our accountant. She doesn't appear too many times before you, as my understanding. It's usually done from my office. I did write today, makes her she's nervous, but she's your accountant. I mean, as much as I can tell you, she's the kind of what we've got. I mean, some of those conversations on how we finance future projects. Every time you do a purchase through a finance, like fleet vehicles, every time you do a SID loan, affects your bond rating. Right? Your financial advisor, for the most part, isn't even kept informed that we do these things. So it'll catch us by surprise when we start having these discussions, because when you start issuing bonds, and sometimes you're issuing bonds with low principal payments, just interest up front for the first 3 to 5 years while your development. And part of the point that I sent you emails last week telling you all the conversations on development, you are in a high growth area. Developers telling you so. But you shouldn't count on something that's not here yet. But you should count that. And I think Mayor, you heard a discussion the other day where the gentleman said 5 to 7 years. That is any development from the time you start having, from the cradle to grave, by the time you start having discussions, by the time you start thinking, it's 3-4 years and it's 7 years before you see the final product. Right? It takes a while. They don't all come in like TP, they don't all come in like McDonald's. Some of these are somebody 50 plus acres that they're looking for. Right? These guys are in it for the long run, and they are willing to invest in the community. They're looking for water, sewer, land. They want those utilities. They are not looking to drill wells. They're not looking to put septic systems. They want utilities.
They want turnkey.
They want turnkey, and they want to be able to turn it fast. Right. So I think you're perfect spot. So we will have more and more of those discussions at home meetings. We'll look at the schedule, see everybody's availability, and make sure because Deborah's going to help me. She's worked on finances for the school superintendent for previous employers. And then we'll work with our accountant, but our accountant is not a CPA, she's an accountant. So a lot of this I'll run through our finance advisor. And the good thing about her is she didn't charge us for that. It's part of the service that she provides us. So she helps us with those type of issues and especially gives us advice and gives you advice on how best to finance these things. And again, I'm not new at it. I've done a lot of these projects. So tonight was not something, unless you want me to start listing some items, but municipal buildings, some public works, park improvements. I'm having conversations with the parks board, improvements to pace cars, improvements to arena cars, everything from lighting to fencing to having events. All we heard, we talked one day about having a Christmas tree lighting, having a Easter egg hunt, a trunk or treat kind of event. So we've got some land available, and this is your way. It's my way that we give back to our citizens with the quality of life amenities, right? So we treat businesses, developers like business. So that those commercial establishments will improve the quality of life for our residents, our citizens.
And I do, Manny, I want to push forward with some sort of a town hall, state of the village, whatever we're going to call it. I'd like to shoot for mid-July at some point. I think the school board is doing one toward, I think I read today, they're doing one towards the end of July. So for whatever reason, July 24th stands out to me. But just to put it out there and give them opportunity, citizens opportunity to hear from me, from you, and whoever else wants to speak about it. Hear from them what they want, but also get them to understand that these wants come with a price tag. And we're going to do as much as we can. We can't build Rome in a day. But yeah, I think we're heading in the right direction. There's been a lot of buzz around town about some of the things that are already happening. The crews going around trimming up these tree limbs and that kind of thing, and kind of having them on standby if we need it. They're going out there doing it. The grass cutting on Main Street, everything's been looking great, with very, very few exceptions. But we're handling those as they kind of come along. So there's been a lot of positive buzz out there. People are just, in general, from what I'm understanding, happy with the way that things are being done out of this building. And I appreciate you and your staff for everything that you do. I put a lot of hours in and pulling your hair out because we're calling and asking you questions and we're needing information and those kind of things. But feel free to tell us, hey, I need to finish this up. We need to finish this and I'll call you back. So, Alderman Graham, you have anything?
So I know we've got a lot of things in the hopper right now, man. As we build out this budget, I would like to see how we think those pending projects are going to impact our budget in terms of allocation and what the price tag is and how it's going to affect our ability to do the things that we're going to want to do. Talking about municipal building, Royal Street, all of our pending projects, if you will, and seeing what's the price tag on those, and what are we looking at, how are we going to go about resourcing those, financing, and paying for them, because I think that having that information and knowing how it impacts our budget is going to help inform how we build this thing out. So I would say that's one. Two, man, I think we discussed it when we were in election for Alderman. Road impact fees. What are your thoughts on that?
I actually like them. Here's what a road tax fee is. You can have a road tax fee and you adopt it, and you have residents pay a certain dollar amount, and then commercial pay another dollar amount based on square footage, based on some metrics that we do. And those monies are completely earmarked only for roadway improvements. Okay. The argument from the other side is you can't write off your road fee, right? So, and then you gotta bill it, right? You don't have a billing system because not everybody has the sewer system, and we don't control the water billing, so you would have to create a billing. So, and if you raise taxes to do that, you can. People forget that taxes can go up, and they did. And sometimes taxes actually drop back down once you plateau where you need to be at the level of service that you want to maintain. Yeah. And if you see exactly, if you read an article 2 years ago, we did that. We dropped it by 2 cents because we already had more money than we needed, and we had built up our reserves. So everybody thinks that cities just raise taxes and just keep raising them. That is not true. They go up and they do come down once you get to where you need to be at the level of service that your citizens want. If they want more and more to there, they go back up, right? So depending on, and you've heard me use the phrase, what is your tolerance, right? Same thing's applicable to development standards. What is the tolerance that the community can handle, right? But establishing a system, because the appraisal district, you get all the property, you get data. We can set up a mailing system. It's not rocket science. It's just that we outsource our accounting service. You're adding another thing for her to do. We could simply, right now she's using a QuickBooks type. You can buy off-the-shelf software and take it in-house. But that certainly addresses your roadways. Look, you're always going to fall behind on your roadways unless you get much more proactively. And you are not at that stage yet. You're far from it. If I can be candid. But to get there, you identify those areas. You generally you work your commercial areas first because that's where the visitors come, generate the sales tax and the retail tax, mixed beverage tax that improves the quality of life for your residents, right? Same thing's applicable with your wastewater system. You don't like paying for it, but those businesses that are generating those sales tax are improving quality of life for everybody else to keep your taxes low. Right? So it's an education process, right? But I am in favor of them. I like where they're earmarked for it, and when you don't need it, you just stop collecting that fee.
Yeah, I just, the discussion about roads has been consistent from the time I was here, and we're at 166% spent on our total street department, and that is including our capital outlay. And, I mean, rooftops don't pay for this. They just don't. And that's where that commercial piece has to come in. But if we're 5 to 7 years out, collectively, until we're drawing the kind of revenue where we can really get after some of these things that folks are talking about with respect to streets and other items, then maybe that's something that we explore as a topic of discussion at town hall.
I've seen communities try to issue debt, going out 30 years on roadways. You haven't even finished paying off your debt before you need to be going back and doing some maintenance, right?
Right.
So, but if you issue debt based on a fee that you're collecting and you've already done the calculations, you know what the income's going to be, and it is much easier to address it. My recommendation is always pay off your debt in 15 years on any roadway, because by year 15, you're going back for maintenance. So there are ways of calculating that and getting it accomplished. And you can earmark exactly how fast you're going to move on these things so you're not sitting on it. That's the one thing about cities. School districts issue debt, and I'm not talking about ours just in general, but it takes years before they do something. Roadways are much faster. And the idea is that you're not always rebuilding roads. You're actually doing these overlays, you're doing these repairs that'll give you about 10 years of life.
Well, and that's what we gotta do, is we gotta take a look, and I think when we get to this town hall piece and get some public input, I mean, you know, what are you willing to tolerate?
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I just got back from Peru last week, and we talked about bad roads, I can prove some bad roads. We've got German engineering excellence out here compared to that, but we're also first world, you know. So, I would say we gotta take a look at full visibility of what our pending projects are, generate some options in terms of trying to get some revenue to get after the streets. And then I know we have several different initiatives that we've talked about in terms of like additional police officers, and a few other things that have been discussed. And put those to the side also, just lay it all out there so we can say, okay, you know, what are we running the future, a call for, or what has to be good until next year, or whatever the case may be. That's my 2 cents as far as the budget process.
Just on the capital outlay for streets, last year, it was brought down from $200,000 to zero.
Oh,
We
yeah.
put it back in there, and then Center Circle comes up, and they said, well, how are we gonna pay for Center, it was already approved, how are we gonna pay for it? Oh, we're gonna pay for it with the 200 grand that you guys put into capital overlay for streets. How were they gonna pay for it before? So I think this number is a little bit skewed in that they just maybe mislabeled it, and they put it into a wrong pattern, whoever did that, but I'm not saying Christie did it, I think previous administration did some finagling and
No, yeah, you're right. I
put it,
remember. Yeah,
that was the
that
conversation.
was the whole thing.
So, yeah, I think, until we hear from citizens what they want, kind of prioritize from there, and then also explaining that, you know, the more you want, the more cost. And, but I think the road is at the very top of that list. It's something everybody should be talking about. Good. I think that's it.
That's it.
All right.
I mean,
Next item is, adjournment. Anybody got a motion to adjourn? So moved. We are adjourned. 7:37.